Ladies and gentlemen, there is an hour each day that most people never meet. It arrives quietly, without applause, without notifications, without noise. It is 4 a.m. the hour that separates intention from action, wishful thinking from disciplined living. Ownership of time is the first visible sign of ownership of life. When a person chooses to rise early, they are not merely changing a schedule, they are changing their relationship with responsibility. The early hour teaches that time is not something to be managed only when convenient, but something to be directed with intention. Instead of beginning the day in reaction to demands, messages, and pressures, the individual begins in creation, deciding priorities, setting direction, and aligning actions with purpose. This daily act builds internal authority, the understanding that progress is not controlled by mood, comfort, or circumstance, but by choice. Over time, this habit reshapes identity. A person who governs their mornings learns to govern their decisions, their focus, and ultimately their future. Ownership of time, practiced consistently, becomes ownership of growth, results, and destiny. Discipline is often misunderstood as a rigid trait that some people possess and others lack. In reality, it is a skill developed through repeated intentional action. Choosing to rise early is not about proving toughness, it is about practicing consistency when comfort suggests delay. Each morning presents a simple decision: follow impulse or follow purpose. When purpose is chosen repeatedly, discipline strengthens the same way a muscle strengthens through use. This process reshapes the way effort is perceived. Tasks that once required strong motivation begin to require only commitment. The individual learns that action does not have to wait for inspiration. Instead, inspiration frequently follows action. By engaging in a structured routine before the world's distractions appear, a person trains the mind to respect priorities rather than moods. Over time, discipline produces emotional stability. Challenges feel less overwhelming because the individual has practiced showing up regardless of internal resistance. Confidence grows not from occasional success, but from evidence of reliability, the knowledge that one can depend on oneself. This reliability becomes a foundation for larger achievements because meaningful goals require sustained effort beyond moments of excitement. Discipline also cultivates patience. Progress becomes understood as a process rather than an event. Small efforts performed consistently create visible improvement, reinforcing the belief that growth is within personal control. This understanding replaces hesitation with momentum. Ultimately, discipline learned through daily action extends beyond a single habit. It influences decision-making, work ethic, and personal standards. The person who consistently honors one commitment develops the capacity to honor many. What begins as a choice to rise early evolves into a broader identity, someone who acts with intention, persists through difficulty, and builds results through steady effort. The early morning offers a rare mental environment where attention is undisturbed and thought can unfold without interruption. In this quiet space, the mind is less occupied with reacting and more capable of observing, organizing, and understanding. Without the constant input of noise, urgency, and external expectations, ideas are processed with greater depth and clarity. Clear thinking begins when distraction is reduced. During early hours, cognitive energy is directed inward rather than scattered outward. This allows priorities to be examined thoughtfully instead of impulsively. Plans can be created with intention, goals can be evaluated realistically, and decisions can be approached with calm reasoning rather than pressure. Reflection during quiet hours strengthens awareness. A person becomes more attentive to patterns in behavior, habits, and progress. This awareness supports wiser choices because it replaces assumption with observation. When individuals understand their direction clearly, effort becomes more efficient and purposeful. The absence of interruption also enhances learning. Focused reading, planning, or problem solving becomes more productive when attention is sustained. Information is absorbed more effectively, and creative thinking expands because the mind is not constantly resetting due to external demands. Over time, regular engagement with quiet reflection builds mental discipline. The mind becomes trained to concentrate, to evaluate situations thoughtfully, and to respond rather than react. This capacity for composed thinking influences decisions throughout the day, even after noise and activity return. Ultimately, clarity gained in early solitude extends beyond productivity. It nurtures self-understanding and strengthens intentional living. When a person begins the day with thoughtful awareness, actions throughout the day are more aligned with purpose, values, and long-term vision. Quiet hours do not merely provide silence, they provide direction. Lasting achievement rarely emerges from sudden bursts of effort. It grows from small, deliberate actions repeated with consistency. A single focused hour each morning may appear modest, yet its impact multiplies through accumulation. What is done daily shapes ability, mindset, and direction more powerfully than what is done occasionally. When effort becomes habitual, improvement becomes predictable. Skills sharpen through repetition, knowledge deepens through regular study, and confidence strengthens through visible progress. Each day's investment may feel minor in isolation, but over time, these investments form a pattern of growth that cannot be ignored. Consistency transforms effort from a temporary push into a sustained trajectory. This principle reflects the nature of compounding progress, just as small deposits grow. Through accumulation, disciplined actions expand their influence over weeks, months, and years. 1 hour of focused development becomes many hours of gained expertise. Small improvements in decision-making become stronger judgment. Repeated attention to meaningful goals gradually reshapes outcomes. The power of daily action also lies in momentum. Progress encourages further progress. When individuals witness the results of their consistency, motivation becomes reinforced by evidence rather than hope. Momentum reduces resistance because starting no longer feels difficult, continuation becomes natural. Importantly, this approach reduces overwhelm. Large ambitions often appear intimidating when viewed as single massive efforts. Breaking them into manageable daily steps transforms possibility into practicality. What once seemed distant becomes attainable through steady advancement. Over time, repeated small actions influence identity. A person who consistently invests in growth begins to see themselves as capable, disciplined, and purposeful. This self-perception supports further effort, creating a reinforcing cycle between behavior and belief. Ultimately, extraordinary results are not the product of extraordinary moments alone. They are built through ordinary actions performed with persistence and intention. When daily effort is aligned with meaningful direction, gradual improvement becomes inevitable. Consistency turns potential into progress, and progress sustained over time becomes transformation. When a person claims the early hour, they begin a quiet transformation that extends far beyond a morning routine. By taking ownership of time, they learn to direct their life with intention. By practicing discipline daily, they build reliability that supports lasting achievement. Through quiet reflection, they develop clarity that guides wiser decisions. And by repeating small, purposeful actions, they harness the power of steady growth. Together, these principles reveal a simple truth. Meaningful change does not depend on rare moments of intensity, but on consistent choices made with awareness and commitment. The early hour becomes more than a time on the clock. It becomes a training ground for character, focus, and progress. When lived consistently, this approach does not merely improve productivity, it reshapes identity, strengthens purpose, and turns possibility into reality.